Anyhow, well, last week I was in my living room and sitting on the couch, and Mandy is all about buying pets. Travis, you've already heard this one. Since we've moved out to the country, we've got 3 cats now that she's supposedly allergic to cats, and they're indoor cats. God has delivered her from her allergy of cats. We have 2 dogs. We used to have 3 until the other night, sadly. And we have all those chickens. And so, needless to say, the dogs and the cats in the house add a lot of hair. And so she bought this new little pet. Her name is Alice. She's an iRobot. Like a Roomba or whatever you say. They're these little vacuum robot things, but the iRobot's cheaper than the Roomba, or however you pronounce it. And she goes all around the house collecting stuff. She's amazing. I told Mandy, that's the best pet that you've brought home. I love Alice. She's amazing. Well, every day I use Alice, turn her on, and she sucks up stuff. It's incredible. Cat hair, dog hair, cat food, dog food, and all the stuff that gets tracked in. She's sucking it up. It's amazing what she does. I'm a big fan of Alice. And except the other day, I was not a huge fan of Alice as I sat on the couch and I looked over at Alice, and our new little puppy had decided that in between every 5 minutes that we let her out, she decided that it wasn't good enough to be let out, that she wanted to just go right there on the carpet or the rug, and right in Alice's path. And Alice, who I love, I wasn't in love with at that moment. Alice the iRobot, don't mistake it for another woman. Okay? I love my wife Mandy. I love Alice in a different way as a mechanical thing. But she took that and she didn't suck it all up. Instead, it began to get spread across the carpet before I realized what was going on, and then went over onto the hardwood floors. And I had a choice, because I could have just sat there on the couch and thought, oh, Alice is terrible. She should stop doing that. She should not be doing that. Or I could have said, Alice, stop. Or I could have yelled, Mandy, this is all your fault. What are you doing? You bought Alice. This is your fault. She's spreading stuff all over the house. You need to do something. I didn't do any of those. I got up. I ran over. I grabbed Alice and I turned her off. Took her over, and then grabbed the spray for the carpet cleaning stuff and started cleaning that, and got the paper towel and scrubbing, and got the shampooer out, got my Norwex mop out and started mopping. I don't know about Norwex shampoo or anything like that, but my shampooer works amazing. The Norwex works really good on the floor, the wood floor. And I started cleaning it up. The message today is entitled, We Can Overcome Spiritual Obstacles. Because what I see in life is just like that issue with Alice, where she was running through the dog stuff and starting to spread. We have a choice. I've said many, many times that our attitude is our choice. Our attitude is our choice. In the midst of challenges, our attitude is our choice. I had a choice. I could have sat back and done nothing and watched Alice spread that stuff all over the whole house and make an even bigger mess. And then whine and complain and bellyache, as my mother would say. Huh? And wait for my mother to clean it up? Oh, wait for Mandy to clean it up. And wait for Mandy to clean it up, or somebody to clean it up. Because everybody's always waiting for somebody. Remember the family circus? Somebody. Yeah. But I didn't. And so it is when we face spiritual battles, spiritual hardships, or any type of hardship in our life. We have a choice. Are we going to sit back and we're going to whine? Are we going to whine and complain? Or are we going to rise up and do something about it? We start this new sermon series today entitled We Can. And one of my pet peeves is when people say, I can't. And probably I got it from my brother Mark, who it's his pet peeve as well, saying I can't. And he wouldn't let me say I can't, even though he was 5 years older. And not the oldest child. He had the oldest child tendency, so he was kind of bossy. And so he was always ordering me around and saying, do this and do that. And I can. Don't say I can't, you can. Because when we say I can't, it's an indication that I won't. It's a choice on our part. I'm blessed that we have Pastor Darren. And because there have been jobs here in the church that he nor I have been equipped and trained to do. And we could step back and say, we can't, but we do it anyway and try to figure it out. And if we can't figure it out, like the drinking fountain, then we call the people that can and say, hey, Danny, can you figure out the drinking fountain? I tried. I took it apart and looked at it, but I didn't have the know-how. And then I said, I couldn't figure it out. Danny, could you look at it? Or maybe it was Ray that said, Danny, can you look at it? But whatever. He fixed the drinking fountain that couldn't be fixed in the fellowship hall and the one down here. Praise the Lord. Thank you. But Pastor Darren and myself took initiative to try. In churches, I've heard churches say, we can't do that when it comes to taking a step of faith or changing something new. And when I hear people say, we can't do that, what I hear them saying is, we won't do that. And we put God in a box saying, it's this way or else. And I want you to know, we can. And this morning, you don't have to sit back and whine and bemoan the spiritual battles that you face. We can overcome spiritual darkness. We can have victory in our lives. And when we get to the next slide, we're going to be looking at Mark chapter 10 this morning. If you'll turn to Mark chapter 10, and if you don't turn there, it'll also be on the screen. We're going to be looking at blind Bartimaeus. He was a man that was blind, and how God healed him. And you'll see how my issue with Alice ties over to blind Bartimaeus as well. So listen intently this morning and take notes. There's room in the bulletin for you to take some. As we begin with Mark chapter 10, beginning with verse 46. I'll give you a little bit of background here. We have Jesus. He is headed to Jerusalem for the Passover celebration. So it's just before Palm Sunday when Jesus comes in Jerusalem and they're waving the palm branches and putting their coats down. It's a big day. It's just days before Jesus is going to be crucified. And as he's headed to Jerusalem, this is what he encounters. They reached Jericho, and as Jesus and his disciples left town, a large crowd followed him. As you remember from a couple weeks ago when I preached, crowds were always pursuing Jesus Christ. They wanted to learn from him, and they were all about him. As they're walking along the road, a blind beggar named Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, was sitting beside the road. When Bartimaeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was nearby, he began to shout, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me! Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me! I woke some of you up. Jesus, just wait. Son of David, have mercy on me! Even though Bartimaeus could not see, he hadn't seen any of Jesus' miracles, he had heard about them. He had heard all that Jesus had done, and he responded in faith, asking Jesus to do something for him. And what's interesting right there, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me. What Bartimaeus is acknowledging is that Jesus is the Messiah. And not just the Messiah, but that he's God. Because when he said, Jesus, son of David, the prophecies in Isaiah and Jeremiah, they told that the Messiah would be of the line, a descendant of King David. So when he says, Jesus, son of David, he's saying, you're the Messiah. And then he says, have mercy on me. Now, we thank God for his grace, a free gift that has been given to us. But mercy is what he withholds from us, what we deserve. So, if you as parents, if your child disobeys, he or she, the child, deserves to be disciplined. And if you show mercy, you withhold that discipline. You don't give it. And so, here, Bartimaeus is saying, have mercy on me. God's the one that issues the punishment. And he's saying, have mercy. Withhold your judgment from me. He's acknowledging that Jesus is God. So as he is yelling, Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me, the crowds around him, verse 48, say, be quiet. Many of the people yelled at him, but he only shouted louder, son of David, have mercy on me. Woke you up, didn't I? I won't be doing that anymore. Well, I might go wake you up, but he yells all the louder. And when Jesus heard him, he stopped and said, tell him to come here. Tell him to come here. Jesus was attentive. He was attentive to Bartimaeus' desperation, to his cry of desperation, and he stopped. He wasn't too busy to reach out to someone in need. And you know what, church? He's still not too busy to reach out to you in your time of need. Because every one of you will face some sort of battle in life. You may not be going through one now, but at some point in time, you will. Or maybe you've gone through one and you've pulled out of one, or maybe you're going through it right now. This is a lesson for you, no matter where you are. Cry out, he'll be attentive to you. So they called the blind man. Cheer up, they said. They had just been telling him to shut up. Now they're saying, cheer up. You know, he wants to see you. Come on. He's calling you. Notice the change in the crowd's demeanor? You know, cheer up. He's calling you. Hey, something good's going to happen to you. Come on. Bartimaeus threw aside his coat, jumped up, and came to Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Jesus asked. What do you want for me to do to you? I can imagine that it was pretty self-evident. I mean, Bartimaeus was blind. We don't know how long he was blind. Maybe he'd been blind since birth. And he hadn't seen. We know that he was begging along the road. Somebody probably had to lead him there. They didn't have the braille that we have today. They didn't have the voice-activated everything. Somebody had to get him there. And he had his coat. And he came to Jesus, and Jesus says, what do you want for me to do to you? And I love this part. Bartimaeus doesn't get indignant. What is wrong with you, you stupid fool? Can't you see I'm blind? Duh! I want to see. No, he didn't. Instead, Bartimaeus is very respectful. He says, my rabbi, my teacher, my mentor. Even though I can't follow you, I've been studying. You're my teacher. I'm learning from you. He's already acknowledged him as the Messiah. He's already acknowledged him as God. Now he's saying, you're not only the Messiah, you're not only God, you're my teacher. His life had already been changed. Think about it. I want to see. I want to see. This man who maybe had never seen his wife, never seen his kids, never seen the fall, never seen the beauty of the colors of spring. I want to see. I don't know. Maybe he didn't care about all those things. Maybe he cared, I'm going to go out on a limb here, it doesn't say, but maybe he just wanted to see Jesus. I want to see you, the Messiah, God, my teacher. I want to see. I want to see. And Jesus said to him, go, your faith has healed you. Instantly, the man could see, and he followed Jesus down the road. Jesus didn't make any mud and put it on his eyes. He didn't spit in his eyes. You know, those are all ways that he made people see before. He didn't blow on him. He didn't go hocus pocus and how you're going to see. He just said, go, your faith. It was Bartimaeus' faith that healed him that day. His faith. The faith that had already grown within him as he acknowledged that Jesus was the Messiah and God himself. That faith healed him. Instantly the man could see. He followed Jesus down the road. He followed him. There's 4 points this morning I want to make through this passage of things that we can do to help us overcome the spiritual darkness around us that we can learn from Bartimaeus. Number one is Bartimaeus knew who to turn to for the answer to his darkness. He knew who to turn to. As I mentioned, he already affirmed that Jesus was the Messiah, he was God, he was his teacher, and he was turning to him. He wasn't turning to Facebook. He wasn't turning to other people. Or Google. Yeah. He wasn't turning to food. He wasn't turning to all of these other things. He was turning to the one who could answer his prayer, his hope, his desire. Where do you turn when you face spiritual battles? Do you turn to other people? Do you turn to the television? Do you turn to music? Do you turn to food? When I'm down, when I'm a little bit discouraged, food is my weakness. Give me some chocolate chip cookies with extra chocolate that are warm and soft with a glass of milk. Give me some Rocky Road ice cream, not Rocky Road, excuse me, Moose Tracks ice cream. Give me some chips and dip and just leave me alone and let me sit there and eat and eat and eat. A lot of people are that way. Some people turn to fishing. Some people turn to shopping. Some people turn to Pinterest or Facebook. But who we're supposed to turn to is not all those things. I can do without turning to those things. But to Jesus Christ. Over and over and over again throughout the Bible, we see examples of men and women who chose to turn to the things of this world rather than turning to God, and their life met disaster. Over and over again, we see individuals who chose to turn to God, and their cries for mercy were heard, and they overcame that spiritual darkness. There are people here this morning that are struggling. There are people that are struggling in their marriages, people that are struggling spiritually, people that are struggling physically, and people that are struggling financially. We say that we know that Jesus is the answer, but we definitely don't act like it. It's time that we turn to Jesus Christ. Too often people say, when all else fails, I'll pray to Jesus Christ. But I say, pray before, pray during, and pray after, because prayer succeeds when all else fails. That's why we should turn to prayer first. We need to go to the one who knows and is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we could ask or think. Number 2, in verse 48, we see that Bartimaeus did not listen to the advice of the crowd. They told him to be quiet. They could have said, "You're worthless. You can't see. You have no hobbies. You have no way of making money. You just sit there and beg. You need to just be cast aside because you're a burden to all of us." He did not listen to people. Several months ago, I came into contact with a man by the name of Nick Voyage. I saw him on YouTube or Facebook or something. A man that was born with no arms and no legs. I just recently read one of his books. And he was an individual who chose not to listen to the crowd. And if the video works this morning, we have a short video that talks about Nick Voyage sharing about some of the things that he overcame. And I'd like you to listen to it this morning.
When you're in school, when you're growing up in life, it actually sort of matters to people how you look. And then it matters to you because it matters to others. And the fear that we have is that we're going to be alone. That we're not good enough. And we have to change ourselves. And so many people put me down and say, "Nick, you look too weird and no one's really offended. You can't do this and you can't do that." And I couldn't change anything. It's not like I was fixing my hair one day and everything's fine. I couldn't change my circumstance. I couldn't just one day wake up and say, "Hey, give me arms and legs. I need arms and legs." It was so hard because people put me down. And I started believing that I was not good enough. I started believing that I was a failure. That I'd never ever be somebody who people would like, people would accept. And it was so hard, man. I thought to myself, I can't go on the soccer field like everybody else. I can't ride my bike and I can't skateboard and these sort of things. And I started getting depressed. I thought, what kind of purpose do I have to live? I mean, are you just here to live to die? I mean, is there not a purpose for me? Is there not a purpose in life? And I had questions and no answers. And I asked my mum and dad, why did this happen? I asked doctors, why did this happen? And they don't know. There are some things in life that are out of your control that you can't change and you're going to live with. The choice that we have, though, is either to give up or keep on going. I want to ask you, what are you going to believe? Are you going to believe in yourself? Are you going to believe everybody else's judgment on you? How did I get from depressed to who I am today? Because I tell you, I was depressed. When I was age 8, I used to concentrate on the things I didn't have. I wish I had arms and legs, and I wish I could do this. What can I do? You see, I have a choice. I can either be angry for not having arms and legs or be thankful for my chicken drumstick. And I'm traveling around the world. It's amazing. But I had to ask myself a couple questions. And the first question was really, who am I? Who am I? I'm Nick Voyage, but who is that? Because there's nothing good about having no limbs. But I love my life. Do you want to know why? Because I've seen the purpose. When you see me for the first time, many of you felt sorry for me. Do you feel sorry for me anymore? No. Why? Because you know who I am. But don't you remember I have no arms and no legs? Would you want to be my friend?
But no matter what challenges in life that you may be facing, what spiritual darkness you may be facing or going through, you need to remember who to listen to. Do not listen to the world. Listen to the words of Jesus Christ. Don't listen to the world. Listen to the words of Jesus Christ. You are made with a purpose. You're fearfully and wonderfully made, and He cares about you. The crowd says, "Oh no, you can't do that. It's foolish." But God says, "Fear not. The crowd says, you're a loser. But God says, I knitted you together in my mother's womb, in your mother's womb. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. The crowd says, you will never change. But God says in Isaiah 43:19, for I am about to do something new. I'm about to do something new. He can transform us. It goes on to say, see, I've already begun. Do you not see it? I will make a pathway through the wilderness. I will create rivers in the dry wasteland. I don't know what you're going through this morning. Some of you I do. But many of you I do not. But I do know this. Don't listen to the voices out there. Don't even listen to the voices that go screaming through your head at times. As I've shared many times, I really believe in the little cartoon that had the little devil and the little angel on there, both of them screaming in the ears. I believe that that's possible. I fight against my emotions and my logic all the time. Because the emotions will say one thing, and I have to trust in the logic and the Word of God. Don't trust in your emotions or in the world around you. Trust in what God has said. Bartimaeus did not listen to the crowd because he knew God had greater things in store for him. Number 3, found in verse 51, Bartimaeus was specific about what he wanted Jesus to do for him. He could have asked for a lot of things. He could have. But he was desperate for one thing. And that one thing is he wanted to see. He wanted to see. What are you desperate for this morning? What is it that you desire? This morning, I'm going to challenge you to be desperate for one thing and one thing alone. And that's for intimacy with Jesus Christ. Because when you pursue intimacy with Jesus Christ, no matter what hell may be going on all around you, you can have peace in your life. No matter what your body may be going through, you can have peace in your life. Number 4, Bartimaeus had faith that Jesus would heal him. It was Bartimaeus' faith that made the difference. The Bible says that if we have faith just like a little mustard seed, we can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be done, or it can be cast into the sea. Faith as a mustard seed doesn't sound like a lot of faith, yet we struggle with the molehills of life, trying to get them to move, much less the mountains. Bartimaeus had some great faith. Faith enough to move mountains. The way that we will overcome the spiritual challenges that we face in life is going to be as we grow in our intimacy and our love of Jesus Christ. The world around us, the situation around us may not change, but we will be changed. In Revelation chapter 2, God is talking to one of the churches, one of the 7 churches, and he says, don't be afraid of what you are about to suffer. Don't be afraid of what you are about to suffer. The devil will throw some of you into prison to test you. You will suffer for 10 days. But if you remain faithful, even when facing death, that's not being delivered from the situation. Even when facing death, I will give you the crown of life. The circumstances may not change, but you can change as you fall deeper and deeper in love with Jesus Christ. It's time that we turn to Him for the answers in life. Amen? And because of that, I'm asking the church to join with me in a 6-day fast for spiritual breakthrough, starting tomorrow. 6-day fast, Monday through Saturday. Why 6 days? Because all the gurus that talk about the significance of numbers and all that talk about 6 being the number for humans and how we're frail, the finiteness. And so 6, because we can't do it ourselves. We can turn to God, who is infinite, who is infinitely able to do so much more in our lives. What kind of fast? It's up to you. Some of you may want to give up social media. Goodness, if you gave up social media and spent that time in prayer, I bet mountains would be moving because you would spend hours in prayer. I get a little bit frustrated. There's a Wesleyan Facebook page for Wesleyan pastors, and I don't go to it very often, but when I do go, over and over again, I see the same guys on there again and again and again, debating and whining and bellyaching and all this stuff. And then every once in a while there'll be a post about how they struggle because their church isn't growing. And I think, well, get off of Facebook and get out there and do something. Spend some time in prayer. Stop arguing about pointless things. Maybe you want to give up junk food. That might be a real challenge, especially if you're one of those individuals that like all that stuff that I mentioned a little bit ago. Maybe you want to give up television for the week. Maybe you want to give up unhealthy foods. Or maybe you'll give up meals altogether. I plan to do just the liquid fast starting tomorrow through Saturday. Why? Pray for spiritual breakthrough so that I can fall deeper and deeper in love with Jesus Christ and see God glorified in my life, in my home, and in my church. I believe God is able to do so much more. Ephesians 2 says that. He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above what you could ever ask or even imagine, according to His work that's going on within you. I want to be desperate for God. Just as Bartimaeus was desperate. But it requires me rising up to take action. And just as I got up and grabbed Alice, not another woman, the iRobot, and took action. And just as Bartimaeus took action and began to yell, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy. So we've got to rise up and we've got to cry out, Jesus, Son of David, the Messiah, God Himself, have mercy on me, so that we can fall deeper and deeper in love with Jesus Christ. No matter what circumstances we may be going through, we must become desperate for Him. If we want to see spiritual breakthrough in our lives, we've got to become desperate for Him. Not for all the other things. And when we become desperate, and we become more passionately in love with Jesus Christ, we will be changed in here. And even though the circumstances may not change around us, one day when we see Jesus Christ, we will receive that crown of righteousness. We will hear, as Bob Pop is about ready to hear, well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the place that I have prepared for you. This morning, as we prepare to receive communion and as we wrap the service up with a song, we don't wrap the service up just with taking communion and go. I remember going to Catholic school and the Mass that would take place, I remember as soon as the people would take communion, they would try to run straight out the door. And I remember Father John Kinney sharing how, before he shared, all the students in the class that went to the service that he was sharing in charge of, he shared. And he said, they were saying, he stopped the communion right in the middle of it. And he said, hey, you that are going out the door, the Mass isn't over, the service isn't over yet. You know what? This isn't the end of the service. It's actually the beginning. As we cry out to God, I want more of you. We observe an open communion that means that it doesn't matter what denominational background you are. If you've asked Jesus Christ to forgive you of your sins, we invite you to receive communion. Communion is just that time where we remember what Jesus Christ did for us, how he gave his life for us so that we could have hope, so that we would have that promise of being able to spend eternity with him. He restored the relationship that had been broken back in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve sinned. He took our punishment upon himself. And as we take communion, we remember and we say, thank you. Thank you. Help me to fall more desperately in love with you. I long for more of you in my life. And so as the ushers distribute the elements, as we sing, as we prepare to receive, ushers, go ahead. We remember. We're going to sing this song. And as we do, and as the elements are being distributed, may we pray, and may we evaluate how deeply in love with Jesus Christ are we. And as we receive communion at the end of the song, say, God, I give my life. Help me to fall deeper and deeper in love with you. Let's worship the Lord. Father, thank you. As the elements are distributed, we have already consecrated them to the Lord. You've asked us to feed on you in our hearts, and we ask that we do that. Evaluate right now. If there's anything that we've placed in front of you, if there's a past that haunts us, help us to surrender it to you. If a marriage or finances or physical stuff is plaguing us, may we surrender it to you.